Imagine you are on a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, with no land in sight and nobody with the knowledge of your location, for 438 days. Well, one man didn't have to imagine, and this is his story. Our story starts with a man named Jose Salvador Alvarenga. In 1975, Alvarenga was born in Garita Palmera, Ahuachapan, El Salvador, to Jose Ricardo Orellana and Maria Julia Alvarenga. Not much is known about his early childhood until around the year 2000, when his daughter Fatima was born. Apart from the joy of his daughter, life for Alvarenga in El Salvador was very difficult at the turn of the century. In his 20s, Alvarenga was involved in a brutal bar fight with some locals and was stabbed 11 times. Days later, one of the attackers that jumped Alvarenga was found dead. Many of the locals believed that Alvarenga was the one responsible for the death of the assailant, and allegedly put a hit on his hit list. Fearing for his life, as well as the lives of his family, Alvarenga decided to flee his hometown in search for a better life. Around 2002, Alvarenga found himself in a small fishing village in Mexico known as Costa Azul. Costa Azul is located near Pajiapan on the coast of Chiapas, Mexico. Finding a new meaning of life, Alvarenga took up fishing in order to make a living for himself. Alvarenga would use fishing as a means of living for the next decade. Mid-November 2012, Alvarenga had become a very skilled and respected fisherman. He was putting together a deep-sea fishing trip with one of his usual fishing partners, a trip that would form a huge payday for him and his comrade. While getting the final preparations ready, his usual partner ended up backing out, so Alvarenga chose to bring a less experienced fisherman that he had never met, a young man aged 23 named Ezequiel Cordoba. Alvarenga freshly stocked their small 24-foot fiberglass skiff, equipped with a small icebox, a small amount of food, fishing equipment, a simple GPS, and an emergency radio. After all, this trip was going to only be around 30 hours. Or so they thought. The first few hours on the Pacific were yielding great results to the group. Collectively, they had managed to catch an abundance of fish, most of which were sharks, because that's what Alvarenga usually fished for, which would provide a modest payday for the two. Fishing was not a majorly profitable business at the time in Mexico, but this trip would provide them more than enough money to last the next week on. After their first few hours, the group had managed to completely fill their icebox, which was about the size of a refrigerator, with around 1,100 pounds of fish. This trip was looking promising for the group, until it wasn't. Shortly after the group's major success in all their fish catching, a major issue was approaching, and fast. Coming up on the group was a major storm, which Alvarenga had knowledge about, but had been in many storms before, so this didn't worry him. However, this one would change their lives forever. Upon noticing the storm, Alvarenga and Cordoba began to turn back, but it was already too late. The storm was on them before they knew it, and caused a devastating blow to the group. In the choppy waves, the boat crashed around heavily, causing them to lose nearly all of their equipment on board. The fishing gear and what little food they had were tossed out in the chaos. Their engine was disabled due to being flooded with water. All of the 1,100 pounds of fish had to be discarded, to level out the top-heavy boat. Their GPS malfunctioned. Their final hope was their emergency radio, which they were able to get one last distress call back to their boss on shore before the radio stopped working. Day was quickly turning into night, but the men had a plan. They were able to turn their icebox upside down and huddle inside to keep whatever warmth possible. Each crew member would take shifts to use a bucket to help keep out as much water as they could to keep their boat from sinking. Their huge payday had just turned from a great success into a living nightmare. After the storm, the men knew they had traveled far from their original fishing destination. The intense gale force winds swept them further out in the ocean than they had originally imagined. With no GPS or radio, the men had to rely on the stars and hope that their distress call had reached the boss on land. With hunger starting to set in, Alvarenga created a plan. He would kneel low in the boat with his hands and shoulders draped over the side. He would keep an eye out for fins, and when the fish would swim between his arms, he would immediately tighten his muscles and clamp his fingernails into the fish. This method would work to provide them for food, but they were forced to eat the fish raw, as there was no way to cook it on the small boat. Days began to pass, and the men were quickly becoming dehydrated. Surrounded by only salty seawater, the men had to make a choice to drink their own urine. This turned out to be a huge mistake, because the urine only worsened their dehydration. A few days later, the men floated upon their luckiest find yet: garbage. The men were able to scavenge a green bag, which yielded a wad of chewing gum, half a cabbage, some limp carrots, and a quart of rancid milk, along with an assortment of plastic water bottles. Things were starting to finally look up for the duo. Around day 10, Alvarenga thought of an idea to hydrate them: turtle blood. Whenever he was able to catch a turtle, he would use a tube from the broken onboard motor to suck the blood from the turtles. Alvarenga didn't seem to mind it, but Cordoba was very hesitant at first. Around day 14, hydration had a short-term cure: rain. A storm brought rain clouds over the group, and they immediately sprang into action. The men scrubbed their bucket that they initially used to dump seawater from their boat, and set it upright to collect rainwater. Now, with a bucket of rainwater, plastic bottles to help store it, and some excess food from the green bag they had found, it seemed like they were set. Weeks passed, and the men were able to survive using these methods they had created early on. But with the fish becoming more scarce, they had to find new means of collecting food. Seabirds soon became their next source of food, at an unfortunate deadly cost. Around 2 months had already passed since their initial departure from land. Hunger was beginning to set in again, so Alvarenga decided to harvest one of the seabirds that had landed on their boat at night. The men ate bits of the bird, but after a few hours, Cordoba was in immense pain. Wondering what could have caused it, Alvarenga cut open the belly of the bird and found that the bird had eaten a venomous, yellow-bellied sea snake. Cordoba was able to survive the venom of the snake, but it took a major toll on his mental health. Several days passed, and Cordoba refused to eat anymore. It seemed as if he accepted his ultimate fate. The men chatted about family and religion in his final moments. Cordoba made 2 requests to Alvarenga. The first was that he would not eat his dead corpse, and the second was that if he made it out alive, he would find his mother in Mexico and deliver the news. A few mornings later, Cordoba told Alvarenga, "I am dying. I am dying. I'm almost gone." Alvarenga tried to comfort Cordoba and offered him some water to drink, but Cordoba couldn't swallow and just laid there. Moments later, Cordoba's body convulsed, went stiff, and completely still. Alvarenga screamed and pleaded with him, but he laid motionless with his eyes wide open. For the next 6 days, in his own insanity, Alvarenga kept the body aboard and conversed with it. Suddenly, as if awaking from a nightmare, he realized what had become of him and immediately began working on a ceremony for Cordoba. He first washed Cordoba's feet, then salvaged the useful clothing that he was wearing, and finally dumped his body overboard. Almost as soon as Cordoba's body hit the water, Alvarenga fainted. Waking a few minutes later, reality sank in. He was now completely alone in what appeared to be a never-ending wasteland of pure blue. Completely alone for the next year and more. Sunrise and sunset became all that Alvarenga would know. Occasionally, container ships would pass by, reinvigorating him with the energy to jump and scream for help, but they were to no avail. Some of them might have been hallucinations after all. And if they weren't, it was impossible for a large ship to spot a small blue and white skiff miles away. As each day passed, Alvarenga's imagination grew. He longed for fine, delicious meals and the fun parties he used to have back at home. Letting his imagination free is the only thing that kept him sane after all. Each day it seemed as if he was at peace. He would take strolls along the boat and imagine if he was walking around the world. This allowed him to trick his mind into believing that he wasn't trapped all alone in the vast, empty ocean. Armed with knowledge that he received from his grandfather, he was able to keep track of the lunar cycles in order to keep a rough estimate of how long he had been at sea. He had counted that he had seen 15 lunar cycles since he first set out. Weeks, months, and eventually over a year had passed since he and Cordoba first went on their fishing trip. On January 30th, 2014, the sky started to fill with shorebirds. Alvarenga stared at them, and suddenly, through the mist, a small tropical island appeared. The longer he stared at the island, the more he believed it was real. He knew that hallucinations didn't last this long. He quickly made the decision to paddle in a frenzy toward the shore. After about an hour, he was finally within swimming distance of it. He stripped, ditched his fishing boat, and began swimming towards the shoreline. With the assistance of a wave, he managed to make it ashore. Naked, face down in the sand like a piece of driftwood, Alvarenga was finally set free from his nightmare. His 438-day-long nightmare across the ocean. Civilization. Something Alvarenga hadn't experienced in over a year. Nearly a 7,000-mile journey across the Pacific finally landed him on Ebon Atoll in the Marshall Islands. Not long after landfall, Alvarenga was discovered by two locals named Emmy Libikmeadow and Russell Lagidrick. He was completely naked, covered in leeches, and clutching his small fishing knife. The couple rushed him to their home, but they didn't speak the same language as Alvarenga, so it was difficult to extract any information from him. Allowing him to eat and rest in their home, they contacted their officials the next day in order to get him home. After visiting doctors and obtaining medical care, Alvarenga was finally able to return to El Salvador. His parents and daughter had assumed he had long been dead, but they rejoiced with the fact that their son and father was finally coming home. Not long after, Alvarenga was able to grant Cordoba's final wish. He traveled to Chiapas, Mexico, and delivered the unfortunate news to Cordoba's mother about his passing. The time on the ocean had lasting effects on Alvarenga, primarily a fear of the ocean which is completely understandable. Alvarenga now lives in El Salvador to spend time mending a long-awaited relationship with his daughter that he had not seen since shortly after her birth.